Hello, Green and Tidiers. Rachel Papworth here, the online professional organizer, liberating you from the shackles of clutter and chaos for peace of mind and productivity. And today I thought I would talk about clutter versus collecting. It was inspired by an email that I received from the lovely Margaret, a long-time Green and Tidy member. And I'll tell you what she said in a minute. But it's something I get asked quite a lot. What's the difference between collecting and clutter? Or I might be working with somebody and they talk about something in terms of a collection, and then as we work together we start to think maybe it's not a collection, maybe it's clutter. So how do you tell the difference? I've made myself some notes. One of these days I'll do these YouTube lives and I won't have notes in front of me, but I don't feel confident enough to remember everything that I thought I was going to say. So okay, well let's start off with what collection is. I mean, what is it about collecting? Why do we like collecting? There is something about it. A lot of people are drawn to it, and actually in particular children are drawn to collecting. I'm not really drawn to collecting anymore, but I was when I was a kid. I used to collect, for example, postcards of everywhere that we went on holiday, and it had to be something I'd actually seen. So I wouldn't buy a postcard of the Eiffel Tower if I'd been to Paris, but I hadn't seen the Eiffel Tower itself. You know, it had to be something I'd actually seen. And eventually I had like a shoebox full of postcards of all the places we'd ever been. And then sometime as an adult, I think I stopped collecting the postcards after a bit. I started thinking, I'm not really sure why I'm doing that. But then I still couldn't bring myself to let go of the box of postcards. Eventually I did. But I think the difficulty that I had in getting rid of those postcards, even after I'd stopped loving collecting them, is summed up perfectly by what Margaret said. And what Margaret said was, collecting is fun to do, but not to move on from later. And I think that is such an insightful thing to say. Collecting, it's like, it's fun at the time. You can buy the new thing, you can add it to your collection. But what you're doing there is kind of storing up trouble for yourself in the future when you're going to have to make a decision about what happens to that collection and whether you still really want to keep it. So anyway, here's a few things to think about if you're trying to decide whether your collection of stuff can genuinely be referred to as a collection, or whether it's really just clutter. So the first thing is, did you make a conscious decision to start that collection? Did you think, ooh, I would really like to have a collection of, I don't know, plates by Clarice Cliff, and so I'm going to go out and start collecting them? Or did you get given one and then you got given another one, and before you knew it, you had a collection, and maybe people thought of you as somebody who likes this kind of stuff and they kept giving it to you, and before you knew it had so much and then you suddenly had a collection? Or was it a conscious decision? Did you actually decide to do it? Secondly, does the collection, this is in a way the most important thing, does the collection give you pleasure? Do you really enjoy the collection? Do you look at the items in it and I don't know, it depends what you're collecting, you can do different things with them, but do you make use of them or display them? Does it give you pleasure? Or is it just something that kind of weighs on you, or lives in the loft and you never look at, or takes up too much space in the house? Secondly, are you proud of the collection? So, if somebody else were to know you collected it, or if someone else were to look at the collection, would that make you happy? Would you be wanting to show them the collection? Oh, look, I've got this one, I've got that one. Maybe it would be another collector and you could be comparing with them what items you've got. Or is it actually something you're a bit embarrassed about? Because if it's something you're a bit embarrassed about, that's clutter. What else? Oh, do you actually need all the items in the collection? Now, some types of collection, it might be possible to collect a complete set, and that might be your aim. But sometimes there's a kind of almost effectively infinite number of things out there. I'm thinking, for example, of a friend of mine that used to collect unusual ceramic jugs and glass jugs, and she had them displayed on her dresser, and they look great. But of course, each time we went around a antiques market, or had a poke around a flea market, or looked on in a secondhand shop, quite likely to find another one, and the collection was growing and growing, and it was getting a bit out of hand, and eventually she did a weed through and she parted with some of them. She parted with some of the ones that were not her favorites, even maybe some that she did like, but they weren't her absolute favorite. She limited herself basically to the number that would look good on a shelf, and she weeded out the ones that she needed to in order to achieve that. So that, she could have kept them. They definitely belonged in the collection. They were an unusual jug or glass or ceramic jug that she liked, but she didn't have space for them all, and so she weeded some out. So do you need to keep all of them? What else? Well, yes, is your collection getting out of hand? So, coming back to those jugs, is it taking over the house? Is it taking over your home? You haven't really got room to store it. Because then even if it is a collection, possibly it's getting into the realms of clutter. So have a think about that one. Can you look after it properly? So are you storing the items in your collection so that they're well preserved and they survive well? Or have you got so many that they end up crushed or getting dusty or getting damp or shoved into a corner somewhere where they're deteriorating because you can't look after them properly? Here's a good one. Is your collection well organized? So can you find a specific item within your collection if you want to look at it? Because if it's just a heap of whatever it is, badges or fridge magnets or whatever it is that you're collecting, if it's just in a heap and you can't find a specific one, again, it's not really just a collection. It's not really a collection. It's just a heap. Um, so think about why you're collecting something, why you're collecting a particular type of item. Are you collecting it because it's beautiful? And if so, if you are collecting it because it's beautiful, can you display it? Have it on display, have the collection on display so that you can enjoy it. Now, if you can't display the whole collection, you might want to rotate. You might want to, every few months, say, put some items away and get other ones out. But if it's simply impossible to display it all, do you really need to keep it all? Often people collect things because they might be valuable. Well, what I say, and I've said this before on these videos, if you're holding on to something because you think it might be valuable, I really, really, really recommend that you find out, get it valued, or even just go to eBay, tap it in and see what other ones like it are selling for, because 9 times out of 10, it turns out that the item isn't valuable after all. And also, if you're only keeping it because it's valuable, then I always recommend that you actually sell it and realize the money, unless you think obviously that it's going to grow in value, but be really sure, because it's very easy to think that things are going to grow in value. The vast majority of things lose value over time. So what else? I think that's the main things, really, just to think about the reasons why you're collecting something and whether you're getting the benefit from it, or whether having the collection actually has more negatives associated with it than it does positives. And then either decide to move on the collection or maybe weed through it and reduce the collection. And don't start a collection unless you really want to, because as Margaret says, you're storing up trouble for yourself later, or if not for yourself, for the people that are going to inherit it at the end. All right, I hope that's helpful. I would love to hear your thoughts on collections versus clutter in the comments below the video. I would also really, really, really love any requests that you might have for further subjects for these YouTube lives. The next one I am going to talk about, and I'm really sorry to bring it up, but everybody else is, and so you can't get away from it. I'm going to look at what you might want to consider getting rid of before Christmas. And it is quite a sensible idea to start thinking about it now, because it gives you time to take action on it. If you want to do a major declutter before the kids' toys all start coming in at Christmas, you don't want to be doing that in the day before Christmas Eve. So forgive me for mentioning the C word in when it is at least October. So I'll see you in the next YouTube live to talk about what to declutter before Christmas. Comment below with your thoughts on collecting versus junk stroke hoarding, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.